Welcome, everybody. My name is Max. This is Dwight. He's been a pastor for several years, and he's been a good mentor of mine over the last couple. And we're going to be talking about truth be told today. So, Dwight.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, about 70 years ago, I started a workout in Wembley called All the Nations, and during the process, began to ask the question: what is it to follow Jesus? What does it mean to follow Jesus? And we get a lot of questions, a lot of statements from people saying, "Yeah, I'm a believer. Yeah, I'm saved. Yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm this or that." And to boil that down, it really, one of the things that came to me was that the fact of, am I following Jesus? Jesus called his disciples, and he simply said, "Follow me." So the question would be, am I following Jesus? And a number of years ago, I was listening to a song, and part of that song was "The Truth Be Told." And I had this idea that wouldn't it be great if we had somewhere that we could go and talk about, there's a lot of, I just finished a series a little while ago on heaven, and that came out of questions that people have. We invite people to go to heaven, and then we go, and they say to us, "What is heaven?" And in the process, we go, "Oh, I really don't know what that is, but don't you want to go there?" And they go, "Well, why would I?" Mm-hmm. And or someone will say, "I had a friend of mine that passed away, and they're an angel now." Mm-hmm. And during that series, we talked about that. And do we become angels when we go to heaven? And so a place that we can go that the truth be told, we can look at it. What does the scripture say about this? What does Jesus say about this? Because Jesus said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. Mm-hmm. And so if we're following that truth, and so that's where the title of this came from, was The Truth Be Told.
Yeah. And I think from that, we can take that into truth, but then how do we apply that to life? And I think that's one of the major questions I had when we started. Well, when I started being a follower of Jesus most of my life, coming into that, but then really not grasping the depth or applying that or knowing how to do that. I think I've talked to a lot of people that ask the same question.
Yeah, Max, I remember the first Sunday that you came to All the Nations in Wembley, and very quiet, and just kind of took everything in. And after everybody else left, you went over to the coffee counter, and you poured a coffee for you, coffee for me, and you pulled out 2 chairs at our coffee tables. You sat down, and you asked the question, and that question really has become almost the mantra of everything that we do at All the Nations, and what we hope for, the truth be told. This fact of, you sat down at the table and you said, how do I live this life? And when we did that, when you asked that question, you said, how do I live this life in my marriage? How do I live this life in my business? How do I live this life with my friends? This whole following Jesus thing, how do I do this? And that question turned into a 2-hour session of you and I around that table. And subsequently, almost every Sunday, you would wait for everybody else to leave. And after they left, you sat down and we began to talk about this life. How do we live this life of following Jesus, and what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that really set me on a course, on a path. It caused me to go deeper. And now I think, coming into it, we've created, it's like a safe place to answer tough questions, because a lot of the questions that we have, sometimes it feels like you can't ask the question because it's like challenging God or challenging, I just know that that's what it felt like growing up. And I think there's a lot of other people that have told me the same thing. Yeah. I know after I got baptized in my testimony, shared my testimony about that, I had people that have been in a Christian home their whole life that basically resonated with that and felt like the same thing. So I think bringing it to this, truth be told, we want to tell the truth, but in a practical sense, and share that for every walk of life. Any people that have been following Jesus for a long time, but also for people that are new and have many questions coming into that and what that means.
Yeah, people that don't know Jesus at all. Mm-hmm. I spoke with, I had a friend of ours come out, and from a different background altogether, and so just kind of introduced him to him that in August 26, 1979, I became this follower of this Jesus, and it was the whole life change, and we'll talk about that throughout this series, this life change that it brings. If I'm following Jesus, what does that mean? And the other part, I think that almost everything that we started to do came out of that. Can I ask that hard question? And Max, you brought that to my attention. You know, there's not a lot of safe places that we can go to ask those hard, difficult questions, because somebody either feels that you're challenging the Bible, the Word, and or they feel that you're challenging their faith.
Yeah.
And so where do we create those safe places where you can ask those difficult questions about, is God real? Is God there? Is the Bible real? And so on. And we've tried to create those in our men's life groups. We try to create those and for this kind of a thing as well.
Yeah, and brings a thought to mind. A different mentor that I had a long time ago, probably 10 years ago plus, said, the thought came to me when you're saying, how do we integrate that into our life, business, family, marriage? There's a one of his things was ethics or business ethics, but there's no such thing as two different ones. It's just ethics.
Yeah.
You either do it across all of it or you don't.
Yeah.
And so that's some of the principles that Jesus teaches, all of them honestly, are applicable across life. And it's not going to just change your life in one area, but if you apply it, it's going to be applied differently, but it's going to affect it the same.
Yeah, that's a great point, Max. Thinking that a lot of times you'll hear in business, somebody will have a business ethic and they'll say, well, it's just business, right? Well, it's not just business to the person that you've done that to, right? And if they can't trust you in business, can they trust you in the rest of your life, in the rest of your relationship with them? And I think that, that how do we do that? And that's what you're talking about. How do I integrate what I believe, and how do I know what I believe, and walk in this life, right? And I think that was a great question that was asked, and again, it changed. I've been a pastor probably 30 years plus at that point in time, but it changed the way that I looked at almost everything. And we started 3 C's in a Q, and people would be wondering, what in the world are 3 C's in a Q? Well, it's coffee, croissants, and conversation that leads to those difficult questions, right? So we sit down with a coffee with someone, our coffee again. We sit down with that coffee and say, let's just be real here. Let's just talk as friends. Yeah. And then whatever difficult questions that you have, let's look at those.
And that's, truth be told, that's what we want to do for you. We want to bring that those questions. We want to bring the teachings of Jesus, the truth. We want to shed light on that. We want to dive into more specific topics and how to take that and apply it to a real life scenario. So we're going to get more into that in the future. But thanks for joining us today as we just kind of go over the direction of Truth Be Told. And God bless.
Thank you.